Welcome to the Synthesis of Yoga, the book that changed my life. For those who are new here, we are exploring Sri Aurobindo's The Synthesis of Yoga. This is a book that has brought all the yogic traditions, 5,000 years of Indic wisdom, distilled, synthesized, and created integral yoga. And we are reading the book line by line. You will find the current chapter, which is the 11th chapter of part 1, the master of the work. And you will find the link in the description so that you can follow the text. The very act of reading Sri Aurobindo is the sadhana here. It is not just a cognitive exercise. It is a doorway. His text, written from a perspective of a high yogi consciousness, carries its patterns, its perspectives, its vision, and his consciousness. So, very act of reading is putting us in touch with his consciousness, and it is imprinting its patterns within us. And as a result, our inner vision begins to open up. Our mind gets organized. Our clarity emerges, and his light and force begins to act through us. We're coming to this current chapter, the 11th. In the last chapter, we have covered the 3 modes of nature, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Now we are moving on to the master of the work. And this whole part is yoga of divine works. Let's begin. This is episode 116. We are starting with paragraph number 1. The master and mover of our works is the One, the universal and supreme, the eternal and infinite. The master and mover. Mover here is with capital M. In our whole existence, everything is moved by a conscious force behind it. And this mover is the master. The master and mover of our works is the One, the universal and supreme, the eternal and infinite. These are the aspects of the One. It's infinite, eternal, universal, and supreme. He is the transcendent, unknown, or unknowable absolute. Absolute is a philosophical term, the ultimate source of all things. It is unknowable absolute. It is transcendent. It is beyond time and space, beyond the manifestation, and yet it moves the manifestation. He is the transcendent, unknown, or unknowable absolute. It is unknowable from our current state of consciousness, our human way of seeing, exploring. It is unknowable. The unexpressed and unmanifested, ineffable above us. This transcendent is unexpressed and unmanifested. It is ineffable above us. So there is infinite potentiality in the transcendent that is progressively manifesting in the world, and it is unexpressed and unmanifested. So let's read this line. He is the transcendent, unknown, or unknowable absolute, the unexpressed and unmanifested, ineffable above us. But he is also the self of all beings, the master of all worlds, transcending all worlds, the light and the guide, the all beautiful and all blissful, the beloved and the lover. All these dimensions, when we think or hear, read about transcendent, we imagine some sort of a blankness, void, nothingness. But Sri Aurobindo is giving very, very positive, relatable terms to it. Beloved and lover. There is a possibility of a relationship, beloved and lover. So all beautiful, all blissful. That's other nature. All beautiful, all blissful. Light and guide. These are all aspects that we can potentially get to know, not from our normal human mental consciousness. That's the difference. And who is self of all beings, master of all worlds, yet transcending all worlds. So let's read that full line now. He is the transcendent unknown or unknowable absolute, the unexpressed and unmanifested, ineffable above us. But he is also the self of all beings, the master of all worlds, transcending all worlds, the light and the guide, the all beautiful and all blissful, the beloved and the lover. So there is a reference to worlds. It's not just world, worlds. There is this physical world, and beyond the physical world, there are other dimensions and worlds within that, multiple dimensions of our existence, various planes of our existence, each having its own worlds. He is the cosmic spirit and all creating energy around us. He is the immanent within us. So there is a cosmic spirit that is presiding over everything. Then there is the energy that is around us, moving everything. There's a dynamic energy driving, moving everything. He's also that. He's also immanent within us. Immanent. It is dwelling in all forms, including us. So he is the cosmic spirit and all creating energy around us. He is the immanent within us. All this is he. And he is the more than all that is. And we ourselves, though we know it not, are being of his being, force of his force, conscious with a consciousness derived from his. Even our mortal existence is made out of his substance, and there is an immortal within us. That is a spark of the light and bliss that are forever. So these are again nuanced detailing of the one who is the master. We ourselves, though we know it not, are being of his being. So there is the supreme being of which we are being, even when we cannot know it, force of his force, conscious with a consciousness derived from his. So our mental consciousness with which we are aware, it's a derived consciousness. Even our mortal existence is made out of his substance. Substance. We have material, physical substance. And within the material or behind it, there is a subtler substance of the prana, then there's a mental substance, all the way to spiritual substance. So all that we are is derived from his substance. And there is an immortal within us that is a spark of the light and bliss that are forever. Something in us behind the transient mold of this body, these thoughts, these emotions, these sensations, behind there is something immortal, a spark that is coming from that light and bliss, and it is there forever. No matter whether by knowledge, works, love, or love, or any other means, to become aware of this truth of our being, to realize it, to make it effective here or elsewhere, is the object of all yoga. All yogic traditions seek this, whether it is through knowledge, works, love, or any other means. The whole object of yoga is to become aware of this truth of our being, to realize it, not just experience as a glimpse, but to realize it, to stabilize in it, to make it effective here or elsewhere. So not only stabilizing in it, it has to be made effective in action, in life. Not only here, elsewhere also is the very object of yoga. But the passage is long and the labor arduous. Before we can look on him with eyes that see true, and still longer and more arduous must be our endeavor if we would rebuild ourselves in his true image. So there is an arduous labor by which we can progress and see this Supreme Being face to face. Then, not only that, having seen, having experienced, we have to rebuild ourselves in his true image. And that's additional, further arduous labor involved in these two things. First is getting to see, second is rebuilding us. But the passage is long and the labor arduous. Before we can look on him with eyes that see true, and still longer and more arduous must be our endeavor if we would rebuild ourselves in his true image. The master of the work does not reveal himself at once to the seeker. So there is this master, and this master will not reveal himself at once to the seeker. The master of the work does not reveal himself at once to the seeker. Always it is his power that acts behind the veil. Power here, capital P. The dynamic creative force, the Shakti. Always it is his power that acts behind the veil. But it is manifest only when we renounce the egoism of the worker. So we have learned in earlier chapters the renunciation of the egoism of the worker. I am the one who is doing the work. That is the egoism. And that has to be replaced, and seeing that it is only his power who does the work. Always it is his power that acts behind the veil. But it is manifest only when we renounce the egoism of the worker. And its direct movement increases in proportion as that renunciation becomes more and more complete. So this identification with the notion that I am the doer, I am the worker, has to go, and increasingly see the divine doing the works, divine Shakti doing the works. And in proportion to our renunciation of the egoism of the worker, then we will be able to perceive, experience the action of the power of the Shakti. Only when our surrender to His Divine Shakti is absolute shall we have the right to live in His absolute presence. Even if we know in theory, Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam, there is the divine immanent in the entire cosmos. Every form is a dwelling place of that, including your own being. This immanent divine is not knowable as long as we live in our outer mental consciousness, and our surrender to His Divine Shakti is not absolute. When we recognize the action of the Shakti and surrender absolutely without any reserve, then shall we have the right to live in His absolute presence. The presence become increasingly experiential to us. And only then can we see our work throw itself naturally, completely and simply into the mold of the divine will. There is a divine will behind all that is happening. And there are its molds through which this will is flowing out. And our action in normal case is stumbling, struggling, striving. All that can get replaced by the free flow of His divine will when our surrender to the Divine Shakti is absolute. Only then can we see our work throw itself naturally. Our work, this is the whole journey that we have made, is about yoga of divine works. And our works throw itself naturally, completely, and simply into the mold of the divine will. There must therefore be stages and gradations. So this growth would require stages and gradations. In our approach to this perfection, as there are in the progress towards all other perfection on any plane of nature. When we say nature, we normally think of the materially visible nature. But that is only one plane of nature. There are many planes of nature. Also, we have learned there is higher nature and lower nature. Even within lower nature, there is this material plane. Behind it, there is a vital plane, there is mental plane, and there are subdivisions. So, in any plane, there will be stages and gradations. There must, therefore, be stages and gradations in our approach to this perfection. Perfection is that divine will freely, completely flowing through us. As there are in the progress towards all other perfection on any plane of nature. The vision of the full glory may come to us before, suddenly or slowly, once or often. So the vision of the divine and the glory of the divine may come to us before the perfection is arrived. This can happen suddenly or slowly, once or often. But until the foundation is complete, it is a summary and concentrated, not a durable and all-enveloping experience, not a lasting presence. So visions can come and go, vision of the glory, but it will not last. And not only that, the vision is a summary of what is possible, a concentrated summary. And even that is not a durable or all-enveloping experience, all-enveloping. We have many layers of envelopes, the physical envelope, vital envelope, mental envelope. It's not necessarily envelop all the layers. And all aspects of our work and action and the cosmic movement that is happening, we cannot see that. We get some glimpses. It is a summary and concentrated, not a durable and all-enveloping experience, not a lasting presence. Presence that may come as a glimpse, but it fades away. The amplitudes, the infinite contents of the divine revelation come afterwards and unroll gradually their power and their significance. There are powers, there are significances, all that will be unrolling gradually. So the greater amplitudes and infinite contents, you never exhaust the discovery of the divine splendors. The amplitudes, the infinite contents of the divine revelation come afterwards and unroll gradually their power and their significance. Or even the steady vision can be there on the summits of our nature. Steady vision. In the summits of our nature, we have abyss below and summits above. It's possible to rise to the summits or get a vision of that summit, and from there we can have a steady picture. Or even the steady vision can be there on the summits of our nature. But the perfect response of the lower members comes only by degrees. Here is the difference. The perfect response of the lower members. What does it mean? Perfect response of the lower members. Even within our existing manifested human nature, you may have a thought, an idea for execution, but your emotional being or your physical being may not respond, and you may struggle to materialize, manifest, to realize in this world. So the responsiveness in our physical nature, in our vital nature, if this is not there, whatever our mind can conceive cannot be brought down into action. Now think of ranges beyond the mind, vision in the summits. We can have the experience, we can have the vision, but the response of the lower nature, the mental, vital, physical nature, to express it here will be lacking. And that is what progressively gets built. Or even the steady vision can be there on the summits of our nature, but perfect response of the lower members, perfect response of the lower members comes only by degrees. In all yoga, the first requisites are faith and patience. Faith and patience. Infinite patience. Unwavering faith. These are the two things asked from us because the journey is long and arduous. And our rational intelligence will not be able to support us because it cannot truly know the complexity. Only ground we have is faith coming from the soul within and infinite patience. The ardors of the heart and the violences of the eager will, the ardors of the heart and its emotions can dramatize in its intensity. And the violence of the eager will, our individual human will can try to violently progress, that seek to take the kingdom of heaven by storm. Very violent way of sadhana to accomplish, can have miserable reactions if they disdain to support their vehemence on these humbler and quieter auxiliaries. So when there is a ardor of the heart or a violent will rushing upward to higher ranges and try to bring down their powers into lower members, this humbler and quieter auxiliaries, the physical, vital nature, if they are not prepared to receive, then we can have miserable reactions if they disdain to support their vehemence on these humbler and quieter auxiliaries. When you don't prepare the ground sufficiently and try to reach out to the heaven violently, aggressively, it can have disastrous consequences because your lower nature has not been prepared to handle that. And that's the reason many people derail in sadhana, because you don't prepare the lower members and try to rise to the higher nature. The ardors of the heart and the violence of the eager will that seek to take the kingdom of heaven by storm can have miserable reactions if they disdain to support their vehemence on these humbler and quieter auxiliaries. And in the long and difficult integral yoga, there must be an integral faith and an unshakable patience. Integral faith. Faith comes fundamentally from the psychic being. That's a source. But other members, our mind, our vital, our physical nature, outer layers, they may not have faith at all. This faith progressively develops in each member. When all parts of our being develops faith, then we can say we have integral faith. Otherwise, some parts have faith, some part doesn't have faith. So that's the usage here, integral faith. There must be an integral faith and an unshakable patience. Not patient for some time and then getting disturbed, but patience that is steady, unshakable. And in the long and difficult integral yoga, there must be an integral faith and an unshakable patience. It is difficult to acquire or to practice this faith and steadfastness on the rough and narrow path of yoga because of the impatience of both heart and mind, and the eager but soon faltering will of our rajasic nature. There is a rajasic nature within us. Our vital, particularly the central vital, can be very rajasic in its tendencies. And this can make our will, our heart and mind impatient, way too eager. And this is one of the fundamental issues that we must be aware of and deal with. So it is difficult to acquire or to practice this faith and steadfastness on the rough and narrow path of yoga. Rough and narrow path. Path can be very rough, very demanding, challenging, psychological difficulties, inner difficulties, outer difficulties, all that will show up on the path of yoga. And the path is also something very, very narrow as you go deeper into the journey. Narrow means any slip is enough to make you fall. It's not wide highways. It is thin trail on the edge of cliff. The walk could be on the rough and narrow path of yoga because of the impatience of both heart and mind and the eager but soon faltering will. Eager but soon faltering. The rajasic energy has a tendency to get excited, react, so it can falter very easily. Faltering will of our rajasic nature. The vital nature of man hungers always for the fruit of its labor. This is its tendency. The vital nature wants its fruit because it is driven by desire. Vital is so full of desire. It is rushing into action because it is desiring something. Even when it takes up yoga, it wants to be a guru, it wants to acquire siddhis, it wants to become famous, it wants to have spiritual experiences, flashy and experiences. And there is an eagerness. And all that eagerness and drama and intensity can be quite obstacle to your progress. The vital nature of man hungers always for the fruits of its labor. Whereas the fundamental rule of Karma Yoga is not to hungering after the fruits. And if the fruit appears to be denied or long delayed, he loses faith in the ideal and in the guidance. So the vital nature has this tendency. If it doesn't get the result quickly, it will lose faith in the ideal and the guidance that was always there. This is a typical problem that vital brings with its rajasic nature. So the vital nature in man hungers always for the fruit of its labor. And if the fruit appears to be denied or long delayed, he loses faith in the ideal and in the guidance. For his mind judges always by the appearance of things. Since that is a first ingrained habit of the intellectual reason, in which he so ordinately trusts. So we have our intellectual reason. That's our most developed faculty of consciousness. And we trust our reason. Inordinately trust. We have an excessive reliance on our rational intelligence and its capacity, its judgments, its analysis, its prowess. So his mind judges always by the appearance of things. And mind can only see the appearances. Behind the appearances are the larger forces working through individuals and events, which our normal human mind cannot see. And it judges from the outer appearances of people's behavior, what they said, what they did on the surface, the logic of what they said. We continuously analyze what people spoke analytically, rationally, and try to understand things. Whereas the forces that animated these people, these events, lies entirely hidden behind our veil. That is why his mind judges always by the appearances of things. Since that is the first ingrained habit of the intellectual reason. Ingrained habit of the intellectual reason. Because intellectual reason operates from its sensory data. And what do we get as sensory data? What someone said, what we read, what we saw sensorially. So that is the first ingrained habit of the intellectual reason, in which we so ordinately trust. And we trust our rational intelligence, sensory perceptions, and limited understanding. Nothing is easier to us than to accuse God in our hearts. Accuse God in our hearts. When we suffer long or stumble in the darkness, or to abjure the ideal that we have set before us. So this is a very, very common tendency. Blame it on the God. When we find that we are suffering long and stumble in the dark, blame it on the God. For we say, I have trusted to the highest and I am betrayed into suffering and sin and error. And it's very easy to take that kind of a position. Look, I have trusted you. I have come all this way. And now you make me stumble in the dark. And you have betrayed me. That's also part of the human relationship tendency. We treat the divine as another human being and want divine to behave like another human being and come up with this kind of accusations. I have trusted to the highest and I am betrayed into suffering and sin and error. Or else, I have staked my whole life on an idea which the stern facts of experience contradict and discourage. It would have been better to be as other men are, who accept their limitations and walk on the firm ground of normal experience. So, as the path is long, there is an initial enthusiasm with which we start off. And as we go deeper and deeper, as the increasing challenges shows up, and then there are moments where we cry out saying that I should have lived like other people on the firm ground of normal experience and normal life. Why on earth I got down to it? No. So I have staked my whole life on an idea which the stern facts of experience contradict and discourage. Because the very idea that there is a supreme divine behind all the appearances, who is there as a lover, as a beloved, who is waiting for us, whereas our daily life experiences of all this misery and treachery and problems, and we put our faith in this idea, and then we come across difficulties, then we start shaking, and then we say, oh, I shouldn't have done this. I should have lived like normal people, living normal life. It would have been better to be as other men are, who accept their limitations and walk on the firm ground of normal experience. So all these kind of cries would come on the way. In such moments, and they are sometimes frequent and long, all the higher experience is forgotten, and the heart concentrates itself on itself in its own bitterness. So these are the moments where we forget about all the experiences we have already had. Usually we enter the path because we have experienced something. Some glimpse comes to our way and we get a sense of it, we get an intuition of it, we get a taste. That's how we enter into it. And there are many experiences that come on the way. But when the bitterness of the heart come into picture, we indulge in the bitterness and forget everything of this wonderful experiences and the light that was there. And we indulge in this darkness. In such moments, and they are sometimes frequent and long, it can last long. Huh? All the higher experiences is forgotten, and the heart concentrates itself on its own bitterness. It is these dark passages that it is possible to fall for good. It's quite possible to fall for good. We lose the path, fall, and miss the journey in the current lifetime. Or to turn back from the divine labor, even give up. I'm done, I can't. Fifth paragraph. If one has walked long and steady in the path, the faith of the heart will remain under the fiercest adverse pressure. So if one has walked long and steadily in the path, the faith of the heart will remain. Faith of the heart will remain under the fiercest adverse pressure. Even if it is concealed or apparently overborne, it will take the first opportunity to re-emerge. So even when our faith is submerged by some forces that invade us, with the very first opportunity it will come back, provided we have walked enough, steadily, long enough. So if one has walked long and steadily in the path, the faith of the heart will remain under the fiercest adverse pressure. Even if it is concealed or apparently overborne, it will take the first opportunity to re-emerge. For something higher than either heart or intellect, something higher than heart or intellect upholds it in spite of the worst stumblings and through the most prolonged failure. Some failures are very prolonged, last not just months, years, in spite of such delays. In spite of worst stumblings, there is something in you that upholds, that knows, I will be saved, I will be protected, I will find the breakthrough. For something higher than either the heart or the intellect upholds it in spite of the worst stumblings and through the most prolonged failure. But even to the experienced sadhaka, such faltering or overclouding bring a retardation of his progress, and they are exceedingly dangerous to the novice. So we have beginners and those who are experienced. These stumblings can delay the progress even of the advanced sadhaks. But for a novice who are a beginner, it can be even dangerous, because you got excited and got into path and then found difficulties, and you don't know how to handle that difficulties, and this situation can be dangerous. But even to the experienced sadhaka, such faltering or overclouding brings a retardation of his progress, and they are exceedingly dangerous to the novice. It is therefore necessary from the beginning to understand and accept the arduous difficulty of the path. So don't fantasize that this path is something that comes with a red carpet full of love and moonshine and devotion and bliss and happiness. That is not how it unfolds. Yes, in the social media, you will find a lot of bhajans and a lot of singing and a lot of experiences and glory and all that people sharing. But the reality of the journey, there is a battle, there are challenges, there are obstacles. It is an arduous path, and you must be prepared for that. Don't walk in with the delusion of hunky-dory fantasy. It is therefore necessary from the beginning to understand and accept the arduous difficulty of the path and to feel the need of a faith, which to the intellect may seem blind. A faith is coming from the soul, but the soul's faith doesn't necessarily explain everything. It says this is the path to walk, nothing else, no clarification. Therefore, from the perspective of the intellect, rational intelligence, it is blind, because it will keep asking, what will happen, what will you do in this condition, that condition, what happens this, what happens that. Mind cannot understand, but heart keeps saying, this is the path, I want to go there, that's it. So that faith is something that you need to see, acknowledge, and make sure that you have it. It is therefore necessary from the beginning to understand and accept the arduous difficulty of the path and to feel the need of a faith which to the intellect may seem blind, but yet is wiser than our reasoning intelligence. So this faith of the soul is wiser than our reasoning intelligence. For this faith is a support from above. It is the brilliant shadow thrown by a secret light that exceeds the intellect and its data. So this faith in the heart, deep within the heart, which is the soul's faith, this is a brilliant shadow thrown by a secret light. There is a great light above. That light has its presence secretly deep within our depths. And that is what provides this sense, the faith. And the soul knows the divine exists and I will reach there. Call has come to me, time has come to me, I must walk this path. Soul knows. But intellect relies on its external data, sensory data. This is the life experience. This is my life context. This is a reality of my life. But faith is saying something else. And mind is relying on its perception of the immediate sensorial world experience. So for this, faith is a support from above. It is the brilliant shadow thrown by a secret light that exceeds the intellect and its data. It is the heart of a hidden knowledge that is not at the mercy of immediate appearances. It is the heart of a hidden knowledge. There is something hidden deep within us. And this knowledge is not at the mercy of immediate appearances. How life appears to us, our daily life context, people, events, situations, these are appearances. But this secret knowledge within is not deceived by outer appearances. It knows the deeper truth of things. Our faith, persevering, will be justified in its works and will be lifted and transfigured at last into the self-revelation of a divine knowledge. So as we persevere, faith eventually will be justified in its works and will be lifted and transfigured. This faith will be lifted into the self-revelation of a divine knowledge. As we continue on the path with faith, the knowledge will come. It will be revealed. Self-revelation of a divine knowledge that is inevitable, that will come on the way, that will show up absolutely inevitably. Always we must adhere to the injunction of the Gita. Yoga must be continually applied with a heart free from despondent sinking. So Gita continuously urges all the seekers, your heart must be calm. It should not be sinking with the despondency. When a heart is sinking with despondency, you are making yourself unfit for yoga. Heart must be calm with faith. Any form of despondency, anxiety, despair must be rejected. Yoga must be continually applied with a heart free from despondent sinking. That's what the demand of the Gita, injunction of the Gita. Always we must repeat to the doubting intellect the promise of the Master. I will surely deliver thee from all sin and evil. Do not grieve. That's the line from the Gita. Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, I will surely deliver you from all the sin and evil. Do not grieve. This is a promise from the divine. If we have faith in the divine, this promise will be fulfilled. Who will be delivering us from all sin, all evil? That's the promise from the divine Master. At the end, the flickering of faith will cease. We shall see his face and feel always the divine presence. So the faith stop feeling the flickeriness of it. It will become stable, solid, and we shall see his face and feel always divine presence. Capital D, capital P. We increasingly feel the enveloping presence. We live in that divine presence permeating all things, enveloping us, beholding us, carrying us, protecting us. This is the promise of the divine, and when the faith is there, this experience will slowly grow and find its anchor within us, and it will reveal, and faith will be justified by this experience. So with that, we come to the end of this episode. Thank you for being with me. Please do share your observations, your journey, how your faith had been. Was it shaking? Are you finding the path arduous, challenging, demanding? How did you overcome your challenges? How do you protect your faith from being eaten away by the challenges? Because all that you can share, you may share, can be of value to others to learn from you. It is a path where we are all walking together, learning from each other. everyone's victory, everyone's experience, all the sharing become of great value. Thank you, and see you next week.